Well, good afternoon. It's always hard to speak to people after lunch because you're sleepy. Do I need the mic or can you hear me? Everybody hear me okay? Caroline, can you hear me okay? My wife talk loud. So, it's funny when the other lady was in here talking about seniors. Here's the thing. I have been where you are. And one day you will be where I am today. We may be from different generations, but, we will have shared some of the same paths as your life progresses and mine too. But things change depending on where you are in life. And one of the things is when you hear the term senior. Like when I hear the term senior, I'm like, I'm not one, okay? And when you heard the term senior, it's a goal you're moving toward. It's something I'm trying to stay as far away from as possible. So anyway, I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you for a few minutes this afternoon and just share a couple of thoughts about my life and some of the things that I've been fortunate to do and some of the lessons that I've learned from some of the great people that I've had the opportunity to work with throughout my career. Allison did leave one important element out of what I consider important. Of course, my faith is a big, big part of who I am. It always has been. My wife, Caroline, is, again, the joy of my life and has been my soulmate and partner for 37, almost 38 years. And I know I can see y'all's face. You're thinking right now, boy, he doesn't look that old. Thank you for that thought. It's the thought that counts, right? And this is my little buddy, Chance. How many of you have dogs? Yeah. Anybody got a Jack Russell? No? That's probably a good thing. We knew we were in trouble when Chance wanted a puppy for Christmas. It's like, okay, he's a little too human, but, I think we learn a lot from dogs. They're so simple. They accept us the way we are. They're always happy to see us when we get home. And we're big dog. We never had children of our own. We have, 5 godchildren that have been a big part of our life. We've been a big part of theirs. But we've always loved dogs, and Chance is the one that hit the puppy, mommy, and daddy lottery because he's a little bit spoiled. You all today are about to launch into your careers. And you've got a great life ahead of you, and you're preparing yourself for what you're going to spend the majority of your life doing. Caroline and I are on the other side. That we have just come off of that 28-year run of our career. So let's talk. Let's visit a little while today, because I think we can kind of help each other with a few things. When I look back and think about, I still have to have the glasses too. I had 20/20 vision until I was 40. That was the number I hit. When I hit 40, I had to wear glasses. So anyway, forgive me for that. But, there are so many things that we have learned along our walk. Some we learn the easy way. Some we learn maybe the not so easy way. I guess the big thing I want to talk to you about in the next few minutes and today and get you to think about are choices. I'm a little further down the road. I think about when I started with Walmart in 1985. A lot of you weren't even born probably in 1985, but that's where our journey began. And Walmart was a small company back then. They were only doing about $6.5 billion with a B in annual sales in 1985. And Caroline and I had just gotten married. I was working a full-time job at a restaurant supply company. I came from very humble beginnings. Most money my dad ever made in a year was about $8,000. My parents didn't have the money for me to go to college. So I learned very early how to work hard for anything that I wanted, and sometimes anything that I needed. And we both grew up with very strong work ethics, which I'm very thankful for. But When Caroline and I got married, I'd work a 40-hour-a-week job and then go to a part-time job at night. And that part-time job was actually at Walmart. And I'd never heard of the company before. They did $6.5 billion a year in sales. This year, I think Walmart will do around $500 billion. So, yeah, that's a lot of billions, right? 500 and some billion in sales. Just my area when I retired was about a $28 billion area of the company. The company had 12 divisions and I had 1/12 of the United States. There's a little over 200 and some Walmart stores. When you have that many Walmart stores, there's something crazy happening in at least 3 of them all the time. And but we had a great run. I got to meet Sam Walton. And it was just such a simple time back then, but it was a great run, and I'm so thankful that we had the opportunity to do all the things that we did. We moved 15 times over the years and got to see a lot of parts of the country, which was really cool, because when we did get ready to, I hate the word retire. It's just got bad connotations, but we got ready to transition out of corporate America into the rest of our life. We were able to decide where we wanted to go because we'd lived in a lot of cool places. So anyway, enough about me. I want to talk to you a little bit, like I said today, about choices. And I jotted down a couple of notes in a short time I didn't want to forget to say to you, so bear with me here. But if you think about choices, when you get the further and further you get through life, you realize that your life becomes kind of a sum total of all the choices you've made along the way. And it's so important to think about that on the front side. Every moment, every victory, every success, every failure, every challenge along the way, the people that you spend time with, the people that you allow to make an impact on you along the way, they all become, you might say, part of the fabric of who you are. I wish when I was your age that someone would have emphasized that more to me. I lost my mom and dad in the last 3 years, and I'm so thankful that Caroline and I had time to spend with them in the latter part of their life. There are people in your life that today, and there are people that will become part of your life along the way that have gone before you. And let me encourage you sometimes to turn the phone off and go find a tree somewhere to sit under with that person and just talk and listen. And, I heard somebody said one time that experience is learning from your mistakes, but wisdom is learning from the mistakes of others. And those folks have a lot that they can tell you about. Doesn't mean you have to agree with all of it. Doesn't mean you have to do it all, but at least take time to listen. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of great things you can glean from those that have gone on before you. When you think about making choices and decisions, it really is about the things that you place value on. So let me give you an example. So this is my wallet, all right? So if I put that wallet down and said I was going to auction it off right now to the highest bidder in the room, the person who would win would be the person who put the most value on that wallet. Some of you would put a little bit of value on it. Some of you would put a lot. I mean, there could be $10 in there. There could be $10,000 in there. I don't know. But whoever put the most value on that object would be the one who won the bid, who won the auction. So let me ask you a question today to think about. What do you value? What do you place the most value on? One of the reasons that I had a heart to write that book about servant leadership was I watched throughout my career so many people that came into a leadership role that understood servant leadership. Servant leadership is basically just having empathy and caring about the people that work for you. It's about realizing that the more authority that you're given, the more obligation you have to invest that in other people. And, you know, it's a term that you don't hear very often that is very helpful. Servant leadership's about serving other people. But think about today. What is it that you value the most? Is it yourself? Some of those leaders that I ran into over the years that were very successful understood servant leadership. It's servant leadership. The ones that were short-lived were the ones that were focused on one thing, and that was themselves. If you've ever worked for someone like that, you understand how miserable that can be. If you've worked for someone who invests in other people, you realize what a joy that can be. What do you place value on? What are those things that are important to you? What are those things that you're not willing to compromise on? If you go to that next slide, I want you to read this quote. Think about this for just a minute. It's not what you do that determines who you are, but who you are will dictate what you do. What's on the inside of you is a lot more important than what's on the outside. Someone told me early in my career, they said, if you will focus on being a guy with a dog and a wife that works hard, and that's the Henry that your people... At one time I had 120-some thousand people in my area that I was responsible for. It's important that you let them know in everything that you do that they matter. But that person told me if you'll go to work every day and focus on leading your team by helping them see you as Henry, you'll be a great vice president. But if you go to work every day and you can't see past the badge that says vice president on it, your folks probably aren't going to be real happy. And you're probably not going to be real effective. And so the character and the integrity and the values that are on the inside of you are those things that will determine what type of choices and decisions you make throughout your career. If you think about it, the world that we're in today is changing and shifting at such a rapid pace. Man, I mean, I think about the education that you all are getting today, and I read a statistic not long ago that talked about students that were going into IT and different forms of innovation and technology, that the education they had would be outdated by the time that they graduated. Things are changing at a rapid pace. And sometimes the best way to deal with change is to turn around and really focus not just on the change, but on things that are not changing. I've got a thing that I've shared a couple of times in different settings that we literally could talk about this one topic all day. So I've kind of summarized it very shortly to just hit a few highlights in it. But it's called the timeless attributes of leadership. Timeless attributes, you can go to the next slide, of success. And I just picked 4 of those out that I wanted to share with you and talk about for a few minutes today. Character, integrity, empathy, and courage. So can you help me for a few minutes and think about, and I want to ask you, a couple of you, just share with me, when you think about the word character, what are some other things that come to mind? Anybody? If you had to define, if I asked you, what does character mean? What are some thoughts that come to your mind?
I guess they'd say your character.
Excellent answer. What you do when no one's looking. Some people define integrity that way. Thank you. What other thoughts? Character, what's that word mean?
Personality.
Your personality, okay. How you come across and relate to other people or you don't. What else? How you what?
How you treat other people.
Oh, that's a big one. How you treat other people. You like to be treated with respect? Of course you do. And you know, it makes a big difference. So character. Some of the things I had written down, thank you for helping me with that. Having high quality, being of a strong moral code, being humble, not arrogant or prideful, having a balance of strength and gentleness. You know, in my job and in a lot of the jobs that you all will take in and the careers that you'll have, sometimes you'll realize you'll be put in a position where you have to make difficult decisions. I used to say that a great leader will always have a heart that's bigger than their sword, but they still got to have a pretty big sword. Because sometimes you have to be willing in a leadership role to make decisions that aren't easy. But again, if you have character and your people know you have character and they know you care about them, it sure makes it easy to get through those rough times. So, character, very, very important. Having a balance of strength and gentleness. Having a strong moral code. I like that part of character as well. Do people around you know where you stand on things that are clearly right and wrong? Sometimes your character is going to be challenged. Which brings us to some of the other attributes here that I want to talk about. Same question on integrity. When I say the word integrity and I ask you to define that, maybe in a couple of words, what comes to your mind? Honest? Great. Good moral principles. Thank you. That's right. Integrity, what else?
I like what she said, like doing the right thing even when you don't have to.
Yeah. Doing the right thing when you don't have to and doing the right thing when nobody's looking. And trust me, somebody's looking. I can't tell you the times that I have been in situations where I didn't think anyone was looking. And I did something, thank God, the right way. And someone would come back later and say, you know, I saw that you did that and I just want to let you know that impacted me. That affected me. So even though it's a great definition of the word integrity, to do what's right when nobody's looking, always know, today more than ever, somebody's looking. Okay? Anything else on integrity? If you say that person has great integrity, what does that mean? What's it mean to you? Trust? Does it mean, can you trust somebody with integrity? What happens if someone betrays your trust? A lot of times you say, well, they don't have a whole lot of integrity. In a leadership role, which a lot of you will assume, some of you, it may be formal, it may be informal, but the fact that you are here tells me that you are leaders. And there's nothing more important than trust in leadership and integrity. Integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, which one of you said, and doing what is right all the time, even when no one's looking. Probably of these four things, integrity is the thing that will get challenged and put to the test with you more than anything else. Let me give you an example. And that never stops. I'm a person of integrity, and I'm 56 years old. I know I don't look it. That's what you're thinking. Thank you again. But recently I sold an item. It was a vehicle. And I had to drive a pretty good distance, several hours, to meet the person who bought the vehicle from me. And part of the transaction is I had to sign the title over to that individual from my wife and I to the new owner. Well, there's a place on the title that you have to write the amount of the transaction, and it was a substantial amount. The taxes that the buyer was going to have to pay on that amount was about $4,800. So when I got there, the buyer wanted me to sign the title over to him and leave the dollar amount blank so he could put a very low amount in there and not have to pay the taxes. Now, it was inconvenient for me to take the vehicle and go all the way back home. You know, I'm there, he's got the money. I mean, just one time, just go ahead and do it, right? And not only would it have been a violation of my personal moral principles and of my integrity, but it would have been illegal. I could have got arrested for doing that. It says right there on the title that it's a federal offense to not, to inaccurately fill that out there, to put, I think it said to knowingly put false information on there. So I, in ink, wrote the full amount out, and I was like, you can take it or leave it. And he wasn't very happy, but he bought it anyway. But it would have been really easy. You would think, after all of the situations that I've experienced in my life, you would think in that moment that wouldn't have been a conscious decision I had to make. But it was. There was, for lack of a better, there was like this peer pressure there. I don't want to make this thing feel uncomfortable, but I had to do what was right. I had to go home that evening and tell Caroline about that. I didn't want to tell her that I'd done something wrong and I hoped I didn't get caught. If you always walk in truth, you'll never have to worry about the tracks you leave behind. Think about that. Make good choices. The third thing on here is empathy. It's one of my favorites. What do you think about, what's the word empathy mean? Say that a little bit louder. Excellent. Understanding the feelings of someone. Emotional or, yeah. So what else? That's excellent. Thank you. Being kind. That is so easy to say and so hard to do. Isn't it sometimes? Especially with people who don't know how to drive. I just got to tell you. There was an 18-wheeler yesterday following me and a friend of mine, and he did not know how to drive. Being kind. What happens when you're kind to somebody? They're usually kind back, and they're usually kind to somebody else, and it usually dissolves the situation, right? A lot of times when you have empathy towards other people and you take time to see a situation through their eyes and maybe take time to experience whatever it is from another person's perspective, it's pretty eye-opening. But it takes an effort to do that. What else does empathy mean? It's not a word that you hear a lot. It's not a word that you hear often enough, in my opinion.
Giving the benefit of the doubt.
Giving the benefit of the doubt. Okay. That's good. What else?
You value others.
You value others? Excellent. I had written down several of those things, but empathy is the willingness and ability to consider another's feelings, having compassion and genuine concern for how your actions may affect another. As you grow in responsibility and you get in corporate America or you get in a situation, sometimes the decisions when I was running a division and had 120,000 people, literally I could make a decision that would affect all of those people to the good or to the bad. Now, it may not be 120,000 people, but if it's one person, it's no less important, right? So, yeah, empathy. It's absolutely critical. Seeing a situation through someone else's view. In relationships with my wife, one of the things that makes her the happiest with me is when I demonstrate that I'm thinking of her above and beyond myself. When I bring her something home from the store or from a restaurant without her having to ask, it demonstrates to her that I'm going beyond myself and thinking about her. We live in such a society today that is like selfie maniacs. I read this thing the other day that talked about how many selfies people take a day, and it was like in the hundreds of millions. It was unbelievable. There's nothing wrong with taking a selfie. I'm a tech guy. I love the latest iPhone. I'm into all that. But it has a place, right? And empathy is important. It's important in your relationships. It's important in your work. It's important in your career. And it's important just every day in life. Showing that you care about someone other than yourself. Willing to challenge your own assumptions. That's a good one. You know, that way you're what we call a lifelong learner. Because no matter how long you may believe something or be passionate about it or be determined that it's the way in your head, you're still open to listen to other people and consider their point of view. It'll make you a lot smarter, it'll make you a better leader, and it'll make you more effective if you're willing to do that. Courage, the last one. Let's talk about it for a minute. So what do you think of when you hear the word courage?
Doing something despite being scared or fearful.
Excellent. Doing something despite being scared or fearful. Okay? What else? Courage.
Willing to stand alone.
Willing to stand alone. Okay? And listen, sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to be the person that changes the mix. You know? I've been in those situations before too, where somebody tells a lewd joke. Don't laugh at it. Or you're just, you know, you're part of the problem. Be the one that has the courage to say, you know what? That's really inappropriate and you really shouldn't be talking about things like that. You know? That's the person I want to be around. That's the person who's got a conviction and has the courage to demonstrate it in front of other people. Most other people want to be the one to speak up, but they don't have the courage to do so. I wrote here, courage is having strength in the face of adversity, determination in the midst of failure. When I went to get my real estate license, after I had, because my wife and I love real estate, we've always found we had a gift in that, and it's been a great part-time job. I can wear my flip-flops and my shorts and sunglasses and sell real estate to people who want a second home on the beach, and you can make a lot of money doing it. It's fun, and you know, and I love it. But when I went to take my real estate exam, I failed the first time. Didn't feel too good walking out of there. But you know what I did? I could have said, well, dang it, I'm just not smart enough to do that. I didn't need it anyway. But you know, I knew it's something I wanted. And so I went back. I found, I took another course to go through to prep me for the exam. I dove deeper. I studied harder. I spent more time. And I went back and I passed the exam. And I think I'm up to almost $14 million real estate I've sold so far. Do the math. It's pretty good money for a part-time job in flip-flops, right? It's good. I almost wore my flip-flops today, but my wife wouldn't let me, so. No. Courage, having strength in the face of adversity, determination in the midst of failure, and the willingness to work as hard as you must to overcome the obstacles you encounter. And being willing to swim upstream, value what others may not. Be someone who sets a standard. And you will have obstacles. There was a time in my career when I was a successful store manager, and there were some personal situations in my life where I needed to step back down to an assistant manager and take a demotion. And I asked the company to do that, and they did. And in a lot of environments, that would be, you know, career suicide. But it repositioned us completely into another situation that came up where I was then promoted and given a super center, and that helped me to launch my career forward. Sometimes you take a step back to take 2 steps forward. Sometimes you're going to run into obstacles. Sometimes things are not going to go according to plan. Don't quit. Don't stop. And have the courage to press through those things. I want to wrap up in the last few minutes here with you, and I want to share a poem with you that a man named Red Stiegel wrote this poem. And it speaks very well, you can go to the next slide, it speaks so well to what we're talking about. Being people that are grounded in high moral principles, and people that have courage and have empathy and have character and integrity as part of the foundation of who you are. If you get that now, if you solidify that in who you are today, that will be part of every decision that you make going forward. It'll be part of how you handle every situation going forward. And when you get on the other side of your career one day down the road and you look back, you'll feel really good about where you've come from. So please give me your ear for a moment and let me share this story with you. Now, if there's any English majors in the room, this is very Texas, okay? So just bear with me, you'll see what I mean. But it's great. It really is a great story. And it's one that I heard, 20-some years ago, and it really became part of how I looked at choices and decisions, and my wife and I both, things that we've done over the years, and I hope that it will have the same value to you. Grab something to drink here real quick. It's by Red Stiegel, and he wrote this in 2001. It's called The Fence That Me and Shorty Built. We'd picked up all the fencing tools and staples off the road. An extra roll of barbed wire was the last thing left to load. I drew a sleeve across my face to wipe away the dirt. The young man who was helping me was tucking in his shirt. I turned around to him and said, "This fence is finally done, with 5 new strands of barbed wire shining proudly in the sun. The wires running straight and tight with every post in line, the kind of job you're proud of, one that stands the test of time." The kid was not impressed at all. He just stared off into space, reminded me of years ago, another time and place. I called myself a cowboy. I was full of buck and ball, and I didn't think my hands would fit post augers and a maul. They sent me out with Shorty and the ranch fence building crew. Well, I was quite insulted, and before the day was through, I let him know that I'm a cowboy and this ain't what I do. I ain't no daggum nester I hired out to buckaroo. He said, "We'll talk about that, son, when we get in tonight. Right now, you pick up them augers. It's either that or a fight." Boy, I was digging post holes faster than a Georgia mole. But if a rock got in my way, I simply moved the hole. So when the cowboys set the post, the line went in and out, and old Shorty's face got fiery red, and I can still hear him shout, "Nobody but a fool would build a fence that isn't straight. I got no use for someone who ain't pulling his own weight." I thought for sure he'd hit me. I'm glad he didn't have a gun. I looked around to find a place where I could duck and run. But Shorty walked up to me just as calm as he could be, and he said, "Son, I need to talk to you. Let's find ourselves a tree." He rolled up a Bull Durham cigarette as we sat on the ground. He took himself a puff or two, then slowly looked around. "Son, I ain't much on schooling. I didn't get too far with that. But there's a lot of learning hidden underneath this old hat. I got it all the hard way, every bump and bruise and fall. Now some of it was easy, but most weren't fun at all. But one thing that I always got from any job I've done is to do the best you can each day and try to make it fun. I know that busting through them rocks ain't what you like to do, but getting mad, you've made it tough on me and all the crew. Now you hired out to cowboy and you think you got the stuff. You told him you're a good hand, but the boss, he's called your bluff. So how's that going to make you look when he comes riding through and he asks me who dug the holes And I say it was you. Now, we could let it go like this and take the easy route, but doing things the easy way ain't what it's all about. The boss expects a job well done from everyone he's hired. He'll let you slide by once or twice, then one day you'll get fired. If you're not proud of what you do, you won't amount to much. You'll bounce around from job to job, just slightly out of touch. Come morning, let's redig those holes and get that fence in line, and you and I will save 2 jobs, those being yours and mine. And someday you'll come riding through and look across this land and see a fence that's laid out straight and know you had a hand in something that's withstood the years. Then proudly and free from guilt, you'll smile and say, friends, that's the fence that me and Shorty built. I hope that you'll think about the choices that you make. Each one of those fence posts, I could sit here all day, and Caroline could too, and I could take you back to each one of what those would represent in my life. I'm a little further down the road, so I've had the opportunity to dig a few more holes and put a few more posts in the ground than you have, but you've all got a great start. Just the fact that you are here today is a compliment to you of the choices you've made so far, and I really commend you for that. Keep making good choices. Be people that impact those around you in a positive way. It's really not that complicated. It's not. It's just about doing the right thing and doing it again and again and again. And I promise you, at the end of the day, you'll be glad you did. Thanks for letting me come and speak to you guys today.
Thank you so much for coming and speaking. It was a blessing for me and to hear the stories, and I've got a lot of questions I want to actually ask. Are you up to
Sure.
answering a few questions?
As long as they're not math related, absolutely.
Well, I do have one, just because I know, like I said, I know a little bit, and you're going to go back to school. And what position were you in when you were in Walmart when you decided to go back to school, and why did you decide to go back?
Yeah, thank you. So I graduated high school and started working. I started working when I was 14, again, out of necessity, really. And I learned the value of hard work and had worked my way up through the ranks at Walmart, and was actually a senior vice president with, I had 200 and some stores on the Eastern Seaboard, 1/12 of the U.S., and I had an opportunity to go back to school, and it was one of those things that I had always wanted to do. My wife went to college and graduated the most outstanding student in her university, and you know, it was just always one of those unfinished things that I never thought I'd have the opportunity to do. So the opportunity came up, and I decided to go back to school, and so I devoted weekends, evenings to that, and was able to get my undergraduate degree in about 2 years on weekends and nights. And then whenever I left the company, I decided to go ahead and get my master's degree. And you know, I will tell you this: when you're 45 years old and you have to go back and take algebra and statistics, and they offered it in an 8-week course or 16, and I was like, I think I'll do the 16. You know, so for 16 weeks, every weekend and most evenings, my wife, who is brilliant in, she's an accounting major in computer tech, and so she tutored me through, and here's the thing, I had to take algebra and statistics, and algebra was a prerequisite for statistics. And it was a long 32 weeks. There was one time that I actually, you know, because Caroline is a great teacher, and she actually, you know, took like a poster board, and she'd write, when we were working through these algebraic equations, you know, what you do on one side, you got to do on the other side. And she would put this up there, and one time I got so frustrated in a statistics moment that I was really a jerk. And I was just kind of mad. And she's like, well, fine, do it yourself. And I was like, I will do it myself. So she got up, walked out, went to the bedroom, shut the door, and I'm out there at my desk. And about 20 minutes later, I was like, you can come back out here if you want to. But I'm so thankful for my wife and partner. She's amazing. And so I was able to graduate with honors and with my master's degree, and then I wrote my book. And I love the academic environment. I just absolutely love it. And I didn't realize that, that I would until I got in it. And it's just invigorating to me. And it's probably one of the day that I was able to walk across that stage and get my degree. It'll be always be one of the highlights of my life. And I learned so much. It well-rounded me so well. I love this story about the fence that Shorty built, because this guy comes across as someone who didn't graduate high school, who was taught values, and he knew how to work hard, and he understood integrity, and he understood all those things, but he didn't have the academic. The academic is important. I'm a passionate believer in the academic world and education, but I think it's part of a circle. It's not the whole thing. And that's why you need to have other exposure to other people and other things. Maybe sometimes people who've been very successful. One of my best friends is a very, very successful construction contractor. Builds multi-million-dollar homes. He's got a multi-million-dollar business, and he graduated high school, and that's okay. I learned so much from him. And I just encourage you to be well-rounded in that way. Take your academic opportunity and maximize it, but don't limit yourself to that. And it just helps you become more and more well-rounded. But yeah, thank you for that.
Does anybody have any other questions? I can sit here and ask 100 questions right now, but do y'all have any? Yeah.
Yeah, so in management and business and leadership, but my degree is in management. So, yeah, and it encompasses a lot, all about understanding social issues and things like that, and just really understanding there's a tremendous emphasis on leadership and different types of leadership, be it transactional or transformational leadership, and I just absolutely love that. We are donating 12 copies of the book to the library here. If you would like a personal copy, all you got to do is take time, send me an email or something, and let me know. I think my email is up there. We can make it available to you. But I love to. My wife and I are givers. We love to invest, especially in people like you, if you'll do something with it. I don't like to walk around and hand out books because they cost money and for somebody to throw on a shelf. But if somebody ever writes me and says, you know what, I relate to that and I'd like to learn more about that, will you send me a copy of your book? If you're a student and you want that, I'd be happy to. But there'll be 12 copies that we'll make available to you somehow as well. But yeah.
How'd you end up back in Florida, in the Panhandle?
Yeah, we love the sun. People say that hell is hot. It's not, it's cold. Just to let you guys know about that. We do not like cold weather. My wife, Caroline's actually Canadian. And she became an American citizen shortly after we got married, but she's from Canada. So we went and visited up there one winter. Guys, it was 40 below zero. The air in the tire on the car froze. Now, it really didn't. But what happens is that wherever the way the tire is sitting, have a little sag on the bottom, it freezes. So when you drive, you kind of until it warms up. It was what you pull up to a hotel, you have to plug your car into an extension cord to keep the block warm, or else the car will freeze. I mean, if you break down on a lonely highway, they find you in the car the next morning like this. You're a popsicle. I don't like cold weather. So when we got ready to move into this phase of life, there's a gentleman here named Nolan Ball who was our pastor, apostle, and I talk about him a little bit in the book. He was the second dad to my wife and I, and spoke into our life powerful things our whole life, no matter where we went, loved us. We were like his second kids. And he was in his latter part of his life when we retired, and so we knew in our heart that the place for us to come was back here, which we loved as well. And we came back and were here to spend time with him for about 4 or 5 years before he passed away. And thought we might move away then, but we bought some land here, and we absolutely love this part of the country. I love the people, we're outdoors people. We scuba dive, we fish, we boat, we wave runner. We just love the lifestyle, and it take a lot to get us to go away.
Were you here during the hurricane?
We lived right across the street from the Gulf in Port St. Joe when the hurricane hit, and we had water this high that came under our house and did a lot of damage. We were fortunate, though, our house was only 1.5 years old and it was on pilings, so the damage was repairable, and it was shortly thereafter we wanted to get closer to Panama City, and so we bought 10 acres on the lake up on in the Sand Hills area down to Highway 20, and that's where we live now and love it. So it's great. Anything else? Any other question real quick? We'll wrap up.